Welcome into the wire. We are here finally back, week 15. Man, we're getting close to the end. All the buys are over. And more importantly for Mike and I, the Chargers got a huge win. What did you think of that win, Mike?
It was great. Nice to see them pull it out, and there's still hope. What 7-6, still hope. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, we have another tough one this week, but we're just going to keep on trucking and hoping for the best. But we're here to help you ahead of week 15, get you guys ready. And we'll start with quarterbacks like we always do. It's pretty simple. I'm going again back to the well and hitting up. Actually, I guess not really the well because I'm going against the Lions this time instead of hammering hard on Jared Goff the past 2 weeks and going with Mike White or Joe Flacco. Mike White has that injury that kind of makes him day to day, but either way, I think both of them could easily put up some solid numbers against this rough Lions defense that are actually doing really decent against the run, but are struggling against pass catchers. And so, Mike White's numbers the past 3 weeks against the Bears, 24.8, against the Vikings, 17.46. And then against the Bills, even this past week, he went up double digits and 10.72. And he also missed a lot of that game. So it's definitely something that I'm interested in. And I guess at the same point, I'm also looking at Taylor Heineke. He gets the Giants again, and he just put up 17.6 fantasy points against them. And I'm excited for both of those. But those are pretty basic ones. Do you have somebody that you prefer more, Mike?
Yeah, I like those two, but I'm jumping on the Jared Goff train now. Still less than 50% rostered, so he's QB 12 on the year, QB 7 the last few weeks, and that Lions team is kind of everyone's talking about them now, right? They've won 4 of their last 5 or 5 of their last 6, and they almost beat the Bills, and the offense is clicking, and team's finally healthy. Jameson Williams coming back. He kind of, he had that one catch, kind of shows you what he's capable of and what he can bring to the Lions. And so hopefully he starts to get more snaps. And, they have a solid playoff schedule. They get Jets, Panthers, Bears. It's not the best, not the worst, but, there's very few teams that I'm going to be kind of worried about now where if you're streaming quarterbacks, Goff is a pretty solid one. That offense, they seem like they can score on most teams. So I really, really like Jared Goff if you need someone. And yeah, just kind of keep an eye on Brock Purdy. I mean, he's had 4 touchdowns the last I think 5 total touchdowns, thrown 4 the last 2 games. And he is injured. They play Thursday, so we got to kind of keep an eye out for that. But if he's healthy, he's might be a decent one. He also can run. He ran in college, pretty decently. He hasn't done it too much over the first 2 starts, but he did have that rushing touchdown. So it's San Francisco's offense. They have so many weapons. It seems like anyone can kind of be fantasy relevant in that offense for sure.
Yeah. So if Brock Purdy can't go, are you interested in Josh Jackson? Or is it Johnson?
Johnson, yeah, Josh Johnson. Yeah.
2 J's.
Probably
I was trying
not.
to figure it out.
Yeah. Probably not. I think I'd go with some of the other guys. I mean, that would be super deep leagues, 14, 16 team, maybe even 2 quarterback leagues or something. If he's your only option, then yeah, I mean, I'd go with him just because, again, get the ball into CMC or Debo's hands. Hopefully Debo plays or Ayuk, Kittle, just get the ball into these playmakers and they can score you all the fantasy points, basically.
Yeah, and I get it, but my thing with Brock Purdy is if he is healthy, he looks great. And I had been already pumping people up for Jimmy G. I mean, that rest of season schedule is so juicy. They're going to have to throw. It's not going to be able to just sit back and rely on their defense. And the fact that CMC has really just opened up that offense has been a huge boost. I mean, I was really down on Ayuk coming into this game because Debo had been kind of taking those targets, and then he gets hurt and Ayuk goes off. So they still have all the weapons in the world. And I mean, like you said, deep leagues. Yeah, I guess you could probably throw on Josh Johnson if Brock Purdy can't go, but I really like that pick as well.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's the Thursday game, so we gotta, keep an eye out for that injury, but hopefully he does play.
Yeah, very short week for sure, but we'll move into running backs, and I am going to take the easy choice here. It's a guy that I have been a huge fan of for a while in Marlon Mack, 2.2% rostered. and he really surprised me this past week. Mike Boone getting injured really allowed him to get more snaps. He seemed to really step into that second backup role. Definitely a good handcuff. And the fact that they are splitting, I mean, Murray was down to, I think, 51% of the snaps, which is still a lot, but in that offense, if you can, like we saw, Marlon Mack got that passing work. And more importantly, he was actually the 2-minute drill guy, which absolutely loved. But yeah, that was the other thing is Mike Boone suffered an ankle injury that likely is going to end his season. And since they are eliminated from playoffs, there's no point in rushing him back. But week 12 for Marlon Mack, 2.2 fantasy points. Week 13, 1.9 in this past week, had 3 carries for 15 yards, 2 receptions for 62 yards and a touchdown. Pretty fluky, but if that number goes up to 6 to 8, I mean, those are pretty good numbers for him and could easily be a good flex option, which I'm excited for. But is there, I mean, clearly some better options out there that we've been talking about all season, and I think you're going to take one of those, aren't you there, Mike?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I like Marlon Mack, and you always root for the guys that are suffer those injuries, and hopefully they can come back from it. But I do have a couple guys for us. Jerick McKinnon is a pretty obvious one after the week he had. I think he had 9 catches, which is obviously gold in PPR. He's kind of been the Chiefs' third down guy all year long, and and so that makes him PPR leagues relevant to start. I mean, it's tough because he needs to get those 6 to 8 carries that he's had the last couple of weeks to kind of really put up decent points. If he can even get just 30 yards on that or 25, 30 yards, and then he throws in his 4 or 5 catches, then you're looking at a decent PPR game.
Steve coming in with the knowledge, leading the backfield still. I mean, that's one big plus for McKinnon and why we've continued to promote him all year. Is just the fact that he is on the field a lot. And while they aren't using him, and any chance that they could easily do this and just go off. And it was a big, I think is he the running back 1 still this on the week right now? Or was that somebody else?
I have to double check that.
I can look. You continue talking and I'll look.
Yeah. So yeah, he does tend to get a little more work when the games are closer rather than a blowout, and they do play Houston this week. So that's it's a little bit scarier of a play because who knows what's going to happen. Houston did keep it close with Dallas, but the Chiefs could kind of blow them out, and McKinnon doesn't get used as much. But I think he has to be rostered at this point. I mean, leading the like Steve said, leading the backfield in snaps. You're on the Chiefs offense. You're going to have these opportunities to put up these big games for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's that offense too. That like you mentioned, it's that offense is just so impressive. Surprisingly, Pacheco kind of struggled, and him not getting into end zone. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be trying to hope that McKinnon goes down or hope for injury, which we never do. Yeah, and that was what I was confirming as well. But man, the fact that he put up just a massive 32.4 fantasy points is just bananas. Yeah. Beating out Christian McCaffrey by 3 is pretty impressive work. But yeah, it's definitely worth it for me, and I like it. The opportunities is one of the big things we look for here. But you have somebody else you like too?
Yeah, and then another one, Chuba Hubbard had a really good game this last week as well, and since coming back from that injury, kind of started off slowly. Deontay Foreman was getting a lot of carries, but Hubbard the last 2 weeks, 17 carries, 14 carries, and he's just kind of looked a little more efficient than Foreman. He always has that opportunity to catch the ball, which Foreman doesn't really have. And we talked about it way back when it happened after CMC was traded. It was actually Hubbard that was leading the backfield for Carolina in snaps and carries. And then he got that injury. Foreman took over in the fourth quarter, and Hubbard missed a couple weeks. But it's going to be a split backfield. They're not going to go away from Foreman, but I mean they just run the ball a lot, and that's what they want to do. So if they're getting 14, 15 carries, and maybe a couple catches thrown in, you have that chance. You have that chance with Hubbard having a good game. They do have a pretty tough fantasy playoff schedule, so that's something to keep in mind. But you're kind of just looking for guys that are getting touches at this point. So,
ooh, that's a good question. Does Donovan Knight? Last time I checked, he was not. He's at 58% right now. But yeah, if he is still available, that's somebody that He's continuing to do some good work, and people might drop him after a somewhat down week, but
Yeah,
I don't know. The other thing with Hubbard is the fact that Deontay Foreman is dealing with some injury woes as well right now, and that's been a big part of his issue. Past 2 weeks has been seeing limited snaps, dealing with the injury. Clearly went out, and Chuba's been filling it just fine. And somehow the Panthers are 2-0 with Sam Darnold under center. So
in the playoff, and they're in the playoff hunt. They can win that
this
division
Panthers
still.
team is so annoying.
I know.
Can the Chargers please change divisions? I would really like to be.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. But yeah, they're still fighting for the division, and crazy as that sounds. And so, yeah, he's a decent option for sure. And just one more thing before we move on. It's always good to potentially handcuff your guys if possible. In the playoffs, you want to protect yourself from one of your guys going down. You don't have to worry about buys anymore. You should have your team set. The only thing that can kind of derail it is a big injury. So if the handcuff to your stud running back is there, I would definitely consider grabbing them over most other people.
Yeah, and that's part of the reason, we are going to continue to do the show is because there are these big injuries. Debo's going to be another one. They say he's going to be back week 17, which more or less means you can drop him, unfortunately, in most redraft leagues at least, unless you're going into week 18, which but speaking of Debo, we'll move into wide receivers. Get that. Hey, shocker, names you've heard before. New Orleans Saints are 4-9, currently hold the 5 picks. And with 4 leagues, yes, exactly. Jeez. Trust me, there is nothing more than I'd want. If the Chargers could go anywhere else and just tear up these teams, I'd be very curious to see how they would do. Except for clearly they can't be the Jaguars ever. So that's also kind of a depressing issue that we continue to have. But wide receivers, that's back on focus here. Names you've heard before. Donovan Peoples-Jones, still widely available. Don't know why that's an issue. Nico Collins, granted he is dealing with injury. Treylon Burks, again, coming off concussion, is still available. And another name that we've brought up, Jameson Williams, had a pretty good week. And I guess on that same note, you could probably do Josh Reynolds, who, if this team's going to continue to throw, Williams is really opening up that field and allowing Josh Reynolds to have some opportunity. But more importantly, the guy that I'm really looking forward to is Elijah Moore. Doesn't matter who the quarterback is. Since his benching and being moved into the slot, he's seen pretty good usage. Corey Davis, again, dealing with concussion. It's just frustrating to see. And over the past 3 weeks has been wide receiver 39. Week 12 versus Chicago, 14 fantasy points. Week 13 versus the Vikings, where Garrett Wilson just had a massive day. So they didn't really have to do a whole lot. And also Zonovan Knight did a solid job, 3.7 fantasy points. And then this past week against the Bills, 12 fantasy points. And honestly, Joe Flacco is probably better for Elijah Moore than Mike White is, but both of them are giving him pretty good looks. And each week he's actually increasing targets 2 to 6 to 10. So these are all good things for him and moving in the right direction. And with Corey Davis potentially out, Denzel Mims will be the guy who slots into that role more than likely with him dealing with a concussion. But that's the guy I'd be looking at. Is there somebody that you're more interested in, Mike?
Yeah, and you kind of touched on it with, the Jameson Williams, Josh Reynolds, just that Lions offense in general. And, DJ Shark, he's done well the last couple of weeks.
Got to get a piece.
Yeah, got to get a piece. 13 targets, 11 catches, over 190 yards, touchdown. That's his 2-week total, week 13 and 14. And I think there was a little bit of fear with what's going to happen when Jameson Williams comes back. And he's obviously, I think he only played like 20% of the snaps this last week, but it's not really, it's affecting the other guys a little more. I think Josh Reynolds is getting less snaps because of it. So, Shark, they went out, they paid him this offseason. He got hurt. He's kind of missed a lot of the season. So we don't really know kind of what their plan was. We have a small sample size of their plan for DJ Shark. And, if he continues to put up these kind of numbers of 90 yards and 4 or 5 catches, he's going to become a must start during the playoffs. And like we said before with Goff, the Lions don't have a terrible receiving schedule or, for the passing game. So I think Shark could definitely become a starter hero for you in the fantasy playoffs, which is kind of always crazy to think about, right? So that's definitely my choice. On top of Peoples Jones is out there. Why? He should be rostered, and those other guys mentioned.
I don't understand. I wish I had a good answer for you, Mike, but the availability of him, I mean, again, I understand Gabe Davis is on a much better offense, but this dude is consistently putting up solid numbers for you every week. And I mean, I like your pick here of DJ Shark because guess what? The only player to have more snaps than him was Amon-Ra St. Brown this past week. So same amount of routes run, one fewer target. And I mean, he's just looking so impressive, and that's what you're looking for. I mean, even Josh Reynolds, 43 snaps this past week. These are some of the things that you're wanting to be looking for. If you have a bad injury come up, or if you're looking for a upside play, DJ Shark is probably going to be one of the guys that you're looking at. So,
it's and I know again they do have a tough matchup this week, but that offense, they just have so many weapons, so I can see them still putting up numbers for a few guys for sure.
All right, we'll move into everybody's favorite position. If you haven't already, make sure you get your Abolish the Tight End t-shirt at shop.importantnonsense.com. More importantly, we have holiday merchandise up that is absolutely fantastic. There's just much good stuff up there, and I'm excited for it. But we'll move into tight ends, like I was talking about. Again, names to remember: Cole Kmet coming off of a bye has the opportunity. Greg Dulcich had an okay week. I mean, he should have. I mean, saw a decent amount of targets. It just didn't go anywhere for him. Evan Ingram, who just decided to wreck the world and get more receptions and targets than we've seen in the past, 4 years, 5 years. It's ridiculous. Crazy. I don't know what's going on anymore. But I'm going back to the Jets, baby, and it's Tyler Conklin, 39.1% rostered, gets a top 5 matchup, like I've been saying, against the Lions. I mean, Conklin has been tied in 17 over the past 3 weeks. Doesn't matter. Again, if White is out, Flacco likes that short area target more, and Conklin's going to be a beneficiary of it. And even in this past week, 5 of 8, 28 yards. So he got 7.8 fantasy points, which is actually pretty high this week, surprisingly, outside of the top 3 that are just way out, just blowing people away like Evan Ingram did, who that just is still amazing to me. But is there a tight end you prefer more, Mike?
Yeah. I remember when Tyler Conklin was tight end 3 on the year to start the year. It seems like it was forever ago.
I think this week, this actually moves Evan Ingram to tight end 7 on the year.
Wow.
This one game has moved him from.
Yeah, I think I saw that. Yep. I think it was a 40-point game or something crazy.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense to me that that's even possible. But man, the fun and unique industry that this is, and how random the options can come, is just impressive to me. But
and the one thing about Evan Ingram is, and it's been the case all year, is that he just runs so many routes. He's running a route always for Jacksonville. So he has that potential to have maybe not a 40-point game, but we didn't expect that. But he has the potential to put up 15 plus points because he's just always running a route. So there's always that opportunity. So if he's there, I'd kind of go after Evan Ingram. And then Chig Okonkwo, I think I'm saying that right. It's kind of interesting. This is a little bit deeper. Definitely more of a dynasty play. But even in
sure,
redraft,
dynasty play.
Yeah. But even in redraft, he's been tight end 3 over the last 3 weeks. He had 10.8 points, 6.5, 10.8, 17.5 points over the last 3 weeks. He's a young guy. He's athletic. I know it's a short sample size, but he actually leads all NFL tight ends in yards per route run at 2.58. And just to kind of give that with a little bit of context, Kelsey's at 2.22. So I'm not saying he's going to be Kelsey, but it's encouraging to see those kind of underlying numbers, for if he gets that opportunity, if he's running routes, he's going to have a decent game for sure. But with Treylon Burks coming back and a couple other guys coming back, that may go down. So this, again, much deeper league or something to think about. Just keep an eye out for him for sure and see what he does this week.
Yeah, my only note on this is it seems like his production has really come with the lack of Treylon Burks.
Yeah.
So that is the one note that I'm a little nervous on. He saw I think 50% of snaps this past week. I think it was 33.
Yeah.
And then and you brought it up with Ingram. I mean, the only person who had more snaps besides clearly the quarterback is actually Christian Kirk. And he played 61 to Ingram's 57. That's massive. And even then, he's also second routes run, which is 35. These are important things to take into account when you're looking at tight end and the opportunities that are there, as well as the fact that not the greatest defense. So that helps. If you can be in any kind of competitive game where you're going to have to force them to throw, which they clearly just absolutely hate Travis Etienne, is what I've decided with the Jaguars. He is not a pass catching back anymore. They don't like doing that at all. So it's frustrating. But
definitely. Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll leave that alone. We'll get into the defenses and try and get out of here early so we can watch this lovely Patriots versus Cardinals game tonight. And we'll be seeing who's making the playoffs based on this game, I'm sure, because I bet you a lot of people fired up a lot of players in this one. Expecting Stevenson to probably carry a couple people into the playoffs, and
Hopkins, Murray, yeah, we'll see.
Brown. I mean, there's definitely going to be some repercussions here for sure for what this game's going to do for people who wanted me in the playoffs. But luckily, I sealed mine up and we're good to go. But we'll move into defenses. And again, guys, we've talked about names that are widely available. Chiefs have great matchups coming up. Definitely a team that you want. But the one that I'm really focusing on for this week is actually the Saints. It's risky as all get out. I get it. 40.7% rostered, but they get to go up against Desmond Ridder. This offense has also not looked the greatest, and they're both coming off of a bye. I don't know about you, but I trust the Saints coming off of a bye much more than I trust the Falcons coming off of a bye. So, and also one of the few teams that has not put up a negative week.
Interesting.
For fantasy purposes, they aren't putting up great numbers, but they are not going negative on you. So week 11 versus Rams, 4 fantasy points. Week 12 versus the 49ers, 4 fantasy points. Week 13 versus the Bucks, 5 fantasy points. I know, not a lot of, not big numbers at all, but man, they're not going to kill you. That they're giving you a number that isn't going to be negative. And so that's a huge boost for the Saints. And they also said they are going to be sticking with Andy Dalton, which surprises me, but hey, that's the move they're going with, and they're doing well enough. So also in the hunt still. Is there a defense you prefer more? Because this world's crazy right now.
Yeah, I know. In the hunt, but holding the 5th overall pick, so that's crazy. Yeah, I like the Saints. Anytime, unless you have one of the top 2-3 defenses, anytime you see a defense going against a rookie making their first start, always one to target. One, maybe you were being a little bit of a homer, but the Chargers, they've looked better as of late.
This past week blew my mind. I thought this game was going to be high 60s, and they did not let that happen. So, yeah. And they also have great matchups.
Yep.
This was another team I was interested in because their playoff schedule looks pretty good. Is it this week that Bosa's supposed to be potentially back?
Yeah, that's the rumor. He could come back this week.
The rumor mill's starting to turn for the Chargers fans. We're getting everybody back. Circle the wagons. Let's go.
Yeah, they do have a nice playoff schedule. I mean, even the Titans this week, first week of the playoffs, they've as of late they've given up 6+ points on average to defenses, which is actually in the bottom third. For the most points given up to fantasy defenses. Chargers have, like we said, looked better. They have 5 points against the Cardinals, 12 against the Raiders, 6 against the Dolphins. So those are all, pretty good, especially the Dolphins, good offensive teams, decent offensive teams. They get the Titans this week, who, like we said, they can score, but they don't necessarily, you're not necessarily worried about them putting up 40+ points or something crazy. And then after that, they get the Colts, they get the Rams, 2 pretty good matchups, I would say, especially that Rams one. So I like the Chargers if you're streaming. And then the Packers coming off a bye as well. This is mostly due to their matchup against the Rams, who we just mentioned. And as we've talked about multiple times this year, the Rams have given up the most points to fantasy defenses. Baker Mayfield there, maybe they improve a little bit, but this was with Stafford. This was with Cooper Kupp. They were still giving up 10 plus points to defenses. So I kind of see that continuing. So Packers might be a nice play for at least this first week of the playoffs for sure.
Yeah, my only worry this week is if they actually decide to do what they should be doing and give the ball to Derrick Henry, we might be in trouble.
Yes.
that is my one worry is like if they are going to run all over us and Henry's going to have 200 plus yards and 2 touchdowns and maybe we'll be able to get the ball back last and score and to win. But I'm not looking forward to it.
Yeah, that is very true. That is your Titans' strength, Chargers' weakness, maybe a bad mix for that for sure.
Yeah, and of course, because the Chargers like to do that, they're just a big mess too. But so yeah, I mean that I feel pretty good about all those. Overall, let's see. Do you have any questions or anything going on?
Let's see. Looks like we have a couple there.
Yeah, let's see. What's up, guys? My playoff start. I have drop P. Ryan for someone like J.K. Dobbins or A.J. Dillon. Yeah, I don't really like. I mean, I get it, but I can't trust the Packers right now, man.
Packers, yeah.
And even Dobbins has had a good game, but again, is that based on the fact that it's because of the backup quarterback?
Yeah, and there was still kind of a four-headed backfield. And I know Dobbins had 15 carries, 120 yards, which is 8 yards a carry. So if without that touchdown, though, even in a PPR league, you're looking at 12 points. So kind of needs that touchdown. And I don't know. P. Ryan's a high-end handcuff. So is A.J. Dillon. So it's kind of a trade-off there. I guess pay attention to, potential injuries or guys that are nicked up. But it seems kind of more of a lateral move than anything.
Yeah. Well, in any case, the game's about to go down. I'm ready to watch it. I want to see how everybody else does, and hopefully this is helping you guys. We still have a couple more weeks, and we're going to be here till it runs out until we have no more time left. But as always, thank you so much, Mike. Really appreciate it. Got anything you want to plug? Your favorite article, maybe? Or are you have anything that you're looking forward to?
Yeah, trade articles releasing, of course. Regular season's ending for most people. Trade deadline's done, so we're kind of doing changing it up, looking back at this week is going to be some potential guys that you should have been sold high that we mentioned early on in the year, and just to kind of make yourself a better trader for future seasons and kind of how to know what. It's really hard to sell high on guys, right? They're scoring you points, they're winning you weeks, and so just looking back and kind of figuring out who are the guys you should think about trading when they're at their highest value. So that comes out tomorrow, mid morning. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, and again, I mean, another great idea, great article. I'm definitely appreciative of it. And hey, if you want more help, you are interested in anything more in depth, best way to get a hold of us, join the Discord. $1 a month, easy. We're always in there. We're glad to help. Mike's in there helping people do trades on and off through the season. We are wrapping up, but we also have sports betting in there, which, you have to bump up to $3 because, got to make that money back. And they definitely will, because our guys are killing it when it comes to their bets and their lines. It's been super impressive for them. But as always, you guys, thanks so much for joining us. And remember, keep up with the nonsense.